My name is Sarah Williams and I'd spent 28 years being my family's punchline. The daughter who just didn't get it. The one who made questionable life choices. The embarrassment at every family function. My mother, Dr. Patricia Williams, built Williams Wellness Centers from a single clinic into a 12-location empire across the Pacific Northwest. Forbes featured her. Governor attended her galas. She spoke at healthcare conferences about building legacy through vision and intelligence. My brother Marcus got his MBA from Wharton, joined Mom's executive team as CFO, and became the golden child who understood what it takes to build something real. Me. I got my degree in finance from a state school. Worked in some vague government job that I never talked about. Lived in a modest townhouse. Drove a 7-year-old Honda. Wore clothes from outlet malls. Sarah's just not built for the business world, Mom told people at every opportunity. Some people have it, some don't. You can't force intelligence. What Mom didn't know, what nobody in my family knew, was that I'd spent the last 6 years building something she couldn't even comprehend. It started when I was 22, fresh out of college with a finance degree and a government job offer that made my mother laugh. The Commerce Department, she'd said, her voice dripping with disappointment. Sarah, that's a bureaucrat position. Don't you want to do something meaningful? It's a good opportunity, I'd replied quietly. Marcus had smirked from across the table. Translation, she couldn't get a real job. What they didn't know was that my bureaucrat position came with a GS-13 classification and put me on the team analyzing commercial loan structures for federal banking oversight. I was 22 years old, making $94,000 a year, with security clearance that took 6 months to process. I learned everything. How major healthcare systems structured their debt. How commercial real estate loans worked. How to identify risk in complex financial instruments. How the wealthy really built their empires. By 24, I'd saved $140,000 and started making private investments. Small at first. A stake in a medical supply company, a percentage of an urgent care startup. I was patient. I studied every deal like my career depended on it. Because unlike my family, I didn't need to broadcast success. I needed to build it. By 26, my portfolio was worth $8.2 million. I'd quietly become a silent partner in 7 healthcare ventures. None of them knew my age. None of them knew my connection to Patricia Williams. I operated through an LLC, communicated through attorneys and kept my name off every public document. Then Mom made her move. It was 3 years ago when she announced her biggest expansion yet. Williams Wellness Centers would add 8 new locations, upgrade all existing facilities, and launch a cutting-edge telemedicine platform. We're going to transform healthcare accessibility in the entire Pacific Northwest, she declared at the family dinner where she shared the news. This is legacy work. Marcus beamed. The financing structure I've designed is revolutionary. Multi-tiered commercial loans backed by our existing assets and projected revenue streams. How much? I'd asked quietly. Mom waved her hand dismissively. Nothing you'd understand, Sarah. Complex financial instruments. Real business. Try me, I said. Marcus laughed. $340 million in commercial backing. But don't worry about it. This is way above your pay grade. I nodded. Said nothing. Watched. 2 weeks later, my attorney received a call from Mom's bank. They were looking for a guarantor to backstop the commercial loan package. The terms were aggressive. If Williams Wellness Centers defaulted or failed to meet certain revenue benchmarks, the guarantor would be liable for the full amount. It was risky. The kind of risk that made institutional investors nervous. My attorney called me. This is your mother's company? Yes. And she doesn't know you're considering this? No. Sarah, this is $340 million in potential liability. If anything goes wrong. I've analyzed the financials, I interrupted. The clinics are solid. The expansion plan is aggressive but viable. The risk is acceptable. There was a long pause. You're sure? I thought about every dismissive comment. Every time Mom introduced me as my daughter who works for the government. Every family function where Marcus got the spotlight while I got pitying looks. I'm sure, I said. But there are conditions. My identity stays completely confidential. The bank knows, but Williams Wellness Centers only knows they have a guarantor. No names. no connections. And I want quarterly financial reports and the right to audit at any time. Done. I became the secret $340 million backstop for my mother's empire. And she never knew. For 3 years it worked perfectly. Williams Wellness Centers expanded exactly as planned. The new clinics opened on schedule. Revenue projections were met. The telemedicine platform launched successfully. Mom gave interviews about her vision and courage. Marcus spoke at finance conferences about strategic debt management. They were celebrated. Featured. Successful. And every quarter I received detailed financial reports showing exactly how my $340 million guarantee was protecting their entire operation. I never said a word. At family dinners, Mom still made comments. Sarah's still at that government job? Don't you want to do something more ambitious? Marcus still smirked. Some people are built for big things. Others aren't. I smiled, nodded, kept my secret. But 3 months ago something changed. I was at Sunday brunch when Mom announced her annual charity gala. It's going to be our biggest event yet, she said, scrolling through her phone. Governor confirmed. 3 state senators. The mayor. All the major healthcare executives in the region. Sounds impressive, I said. It is, Mom replied without looking up. Which is why I'm limiting the guest list to people who actually contribute something meaningful. Marcus is bringing his team. I'm bringing the board. We need this to reflect the caliber of Williams Wellness Centers. I felt the shift in the air before she said it. Sarah, I think it's best if you sit this one out. I looked up. What? The gala, Mom said, still not meeting my eyes. It's really for business connections and high-level donors. You'd be bored. All healthcare industry talk. Marcus cleared his throat. What Mom's trying to say is that it's kind of an elite crowd. Successful people. Might not be your scene. My father said nothing. Just kept eating his eggs. I see, I said quietly. Don't take it personally, Mom added. It's just that when the governor asks what you do, I work for the government doesn't really, reflect well. I set down my fork. Understood. Great. Mom smiled brightly. I knew you'd get it. This is about maintaining the Williams brand. Professional excellence. You understand. I understood perfectly. That afternoon I called my attorney. I need to know something. If I withdraw my guarantee from the Williams Wellness Center's loan package, what happens? There was a long pause. The entire loan structure collapses. The bank required a guarantor because of the aggressive terms and expansion timeline. Without you backing it, they'd call the loan immediately. How immediately? Within 30 days. And Williams Wellness Centers doesn't have $340 million in liquid assets to pay it back. They'd be forced into emergency refinancing at much worse terms or bankruptcy, I finished. Yes. I thought about it for exactly 3 seconds. Prepare the withdrawal paperwork. 2 weeks later, I stood outside the Grand Cascade Ballroom watching Seattle's elite arrive for Mom's charity gala. I wasn't on the guest list. But I had something better. I had a front row seat to what was about to happen. I dressed carefully that morning. Not for the gala I wasn't invited to, but for the meeting I'd scheduled with the bank's senior vice president at a coffee shop across the street. We'd signed the withdrawal papers 2 hours ago. The bank would notify Williams Wellness Centers within the hour. My phone buzzed. My attorney, papers filed. Bank is calling now. I looked up at the ballroom entrance. Through the glass doors I could see the glittering crowd. Mom in her designer gown. Marcus in his custom tuxedo. The governor. The senators. The healthcare elite. My phone buzzed again. This time a message from an unknown number. Ms. Williams, this is David Chin, CFO of Williams Wellness Centers. We've received an urgent notification from the bank regarding our loan guarantee. Can you please call me immediately? I smiled. Typed back. I'm not the Williams you need to speak with. Then I walked into the lobby. The hotel lobby had a perfect view of the ballroom. I ordered coffee from the cafe and sat where I could watch. 15 minutes later, I saw Marcus leave the ballroom, phone pressed to his ear. His face was pale. He paced near the entrance, gesturing frantically. 20 minutes after that, Mom emerged. Even from a distance, I could see the fury in her posture. She grabbed Marcus's arm, pulled him aside. They argued in harsh whispers. My phone rang. I answered. Hello. Sarah. Her voice was ice. Where are you? Coffee shop across from your gala. Why? We have a situation. I need you to come to the hotel immediately. I thought I wasn't invited. This isn't the time for your feelings to be hurt. This is an emergency. Get here now. I took a sip of coffee. What kind of emergency? Our loan guarantee was withdrawn. The entire $340 million backing for our expansion. The bank is calling the loan in 30 days. We need to identify who did this and why. That sounds serious, I said calmly. Sarah, this could destroy everything we've built. Williams Wellness Centers could be forced into bankruptcy. I need every brain working on this. Even yours. Please. Even yours. I'll be there in 5 minutes, I said. I finished my coffee slowly, checked my makeup and my phone camera. Then I walked across the street and entered the Grand Cascade Ballroom. The gala was in chaos. Waiters still circulated with champagne, but clusters of worried executives huddled in corners. The governor looked confused. Board members surrounded Mom and Marcus near the stage. I walked through the crowd in my off-the-rack dress and outlet mall heels. Mom spotted me immediately. Sarah. Finally. We need to talk privately. She grabbed my arm and pulled me toward a side conference room. Marcus followed along with David Chin, the CFO I'd been copied on emails with for 3 years but had never met. The door closed behind us. Explain what happened, Mom demanded, looking at David. David looked sick. 2 hours ago, the bank notified us that our loan guarantor has withdrawn backing for the $340 million commercial loan package. Per the terms of the agreement, the bank is exercising their right to call the full loan amount within 30 days. Who was the guarantor? Mom asked. That information was kept confidential per the original agreement. The bank won't disclose identity. Marcus slammed his hand on the table. How is that possible? We structured this deal 3 years ago. The guarantor agreed to back the full expansion. Why would they suddenly withdraw? The agreement included a withdrawal clause, David said quietly. The guarantor had the right to exit at any time with 30 days' notice. Mom turned to me. Sarah, you work for the Commerce Department. You must know people in banking oversight. Can you make calls? Find out who this guarantor is. I leaned against the wall. Why would I do that? Her eyes widened. Because this is your family. Williams Wellness Centers employs 847 people. This isn't just about me or Marcus. This affects real lives. Like it affected my life when you uninvited me from tonight because I'd embarrass you? Sarah, this isn't the time. No, Mom. This is exactly the time. I pulled out my phone. Let me tell you what happened. 3 years ago, your bank needed a guarantor for your aggressive expansion loan. Institutional investors thought it was too risky. So they found someone willing to take on $340 million in potential liability. Marcus stared at me. How do you know the details of our loan structure? Because I've been reading the quarterly financial reports for 3 years. Every revenue projection. Every expansion benchmark. Every risk assessment. What are you talking about? Mom whispered. I opened my email. Showed them the screen. Here's this quarter's report. Williams Wellness Centers revenue. $127 million. Expansion loan payment. $8.2 million. Current liability if loan called. $340 million. Assets available for emergency refinancing. $63 million. The room went silent. You're short by $277 million, I said quietly. If that loan gets called, you're finished. David's voice shook. How do you have access to these reports? Because the guarantor agreement included quarterly reporting requirements and audit rights. The bank sends them to the guarantor every 90 days. Mom's face went white. Sarah, what are you saying? I looked at my mother. The woman who'd spent 28 years telling me I wasn't smart enough, wasn't business-minded enough, wasn't worthy of her world. I'm saying that 3 years ago when every institutional investor said your expansion plan was too risky, I put up $340 million in personal guarantee to back your loan. I've been the silent guarantor for Williams Wellness Centers since the beginning. Marcus actually laughed. That's impossible. You work for the government. You drive a Honda. You live in a townhouse. I work for the Commerce Department making $167,000 a year with GS-14 classification. I drive a Honda because I don't care about cars. I live in a townhouse because I own 17 other properties as rental investments. And I backed Mom's loan because I analyzed the financials and determined the risk was acceptable. You're lying, Mom whispered. I pulled out my phone again. Showed them an email. Here's the confirmation from Pacific Northwest Commercial Bank. Guarantor agreement for Williams Wellness Center's expansion loan. Guarantor, Williams Holdings LLC. Owner, Sarah Catherine Williams. David Chin grabbed the phone. Stared at the screen. Looked at me. You're 28 years old. I'm 28 years old with a finance degree, 6 years of federal banking oversight experience, and a personal investment portfolio worth $47 million. I've been a silent partner in healthcare ventures since I was 24. I know exactly how to structure commercial loans, analyze risk, and build wealth without broadcasting it. The room was completely silent. You backed our entire expansion? Mom's voice was barely audible. I did. For 3 years, I've been the invisible safety net that made your empire possible. Every new clinic, every equipment upgrade, every headline about your vision and success, it was all built on my guarantee. Marcus found his voice. Then why withdraw it now? Why destroy everything? I looked at him. Because this afternoon, Mom told me I wasn't good enough to attend her gala. She said I'd embarrass her in front of successful people. She said I didn't fit the Williams brand. I turned to my mother. So I decided you were right. I don't fit your brand. And I'm done backing an empire that's ashamed of me. Mom's hands were shaking. Sarah, please. This is just a misunderstanding. I didn't mean. You meant every word, I interrupted. Just like you meant it every time you introduced me as your daughter who just works for the government. Every time you told people Marcus got the business genes. Every time you made it clear I was the disappointment. We can fix this, Marcus said desperately. We'll refinance. Find another guarantor. You have 30 days, I said. And good luck finding someone willing to back $340 million for a healthcare company with aggressive expansion debt and no liquid assets. I know because I've analyzed this exact scenario. There's no institutional investor who'll touch this. David spoke up. What about emergency asset liquidation? We could sell some clinics to raise capital. You could, I agreed. You could sell 4 or 5 locations, take massive losses, scale back the expansion, lay off a few hundred employees and maybe scrape together enough to satisfy part of the loan. Then spend the next decade rebuilding what you just destroyed. I headed toward the door. Or. Mom's voice stopped me. I turned back. Or you could acknowledge that the daughter you've dismissed for 28 years is the reason you still have a business. You could admit that intelligence and success don't always look the way you expect. And you could ask respectfully if there's any way to resolve this. Is there? Mom whispered. I looked at her. Really looked at her. The woman who'd never believed in me. Never respected me. Never saw me as anything more than the daughter who didn't measure up. I don't know yet, I said honestly. Right now I'm going back to my coffee shop. You have my number. I left them standing in that conference room and walked back through the gala. Past the governor. Past the senators. Past all the successful people who were supposed to be too elite for someone like me. My phone was already buzzing with messages before I reached the door. I spent the next week watching my family scramble. Marcus called first. Sarah, we need to talk about restructuring options. I'm listening. What if we gave you equity in Williams Wellness Centers? A board position? We could make you VP of Finance. I don't want a position in your company, Marcus. I want respect. He was quiet for a long moment. I'm sorry. For all the comments. For dismissing you. I genuinely thought. You thought I was stupid, I finished. Because I didn't broadcast my success. Because I didn't need to prove anything to you. Yeah, he said quietly. I did. And I was wrong. It was the first real apology I'd ever gotten from my brother. Mom took longer. 5 days after the gala, she showed up at my townhouse. I almost didn't answer the door. Sarah, she said when I finally opened it. Can we talk? I let her in. Didn't offer coffee. She stood in my modest living room looking lost. I've spent the last 5 days reviewing everything David sent me. Every quarterly report. Every risk assessment. Every financial projection you must have analyzed before agreeing to back our loan. And I don't understand any of it, she admitted. The complexity of the financial instruments, the risk calculations, the portfolio theory, it's completely beyond my expertise. I'm a doctor who built clinics. You're something else entirely. I waited. I called a friend who's a CFO at a Fortune 500 healthcare company, Mom continued. I asked him what it would take for someone to personally guarantee $340 million in commercial debt. He laughed. Said it was impossible unless you had a portfolio worth at least 8 figures and expertise in complex financial structures. Closer to 9 figures now, I said quietly. Mom's eyes widened. Sarah, where did this come from? How did you? I studied, Mom. I worked my ass off in college. I took the most boring, unglamorous government job analyzing banking regulations and commercial loan structures. I saved every penny. I made strategic investments. I networked with people who knew things. And I built something real while you were telling everyone I wasn't capable. She sat down on my couch. I've been thinking about when you were 12. I blinked at the change in direction. What? You were 12 years old and I took you to the clinic. There was a billing error. The hospital had overcharged us by $8,000. I was furious, ready to call lawyers. And you spent 20 minutes reviewing the itemized bill and found the exact line items that were duplicated. You were 12. I remember. I told everyone you were good with numbers, Mom said softly. And then somewhere along the way, I decided that being good with numbers wasn't the same as being smart about business. I decided that unless you were loud about your success, flashy about your achievements, broadcasting everything, it didn't count. You decided I was a disappointment, I said. I decided wrong. Mom looked at me. I've spent my entire career building something I thought was impressive. And my daughter built something that makes my clinics look like a lemonade stand, and I never even noticed. You didn't want to notice. You're right, she said. Because noticing would mean admitting I was wrong about you. And I've built my entire identity on being right. We sat in silence. What happens now? Mom finally asked. I'd been thinking about this for days. Now you acknowledge something publicly. Not to me, I don't need that. To Marcus. To Dad. To all those people at your gala who think success looks a certain way. What do you want me to say? The truth, I said. That your expansion, your empire, your success, it was all backed by the daughter you dismissed. And that intelligence comes in forms you didn't recognize. Mom nodded slowly. And then we'll talk about whether I'm willing to restructure the guarantee. But it won't be the same terms. It'll include full transparency, a seat on your board if I want it, and an acknowledgement in every financial document that Williams Holdings LLC is the primary backer. That's fair. And one more thing, I added. Next year's gala? I'm on the guest list. Not as your daughter who you're embarrassed by. As the investor who makes it all possible. Mom smiled for the first time. Deal. The restructured guarantee was signed 3 weeks later. I remained the $340 million backstop for Williams Wellness Centers, but now with full board voting rights and public acknowledgement of my role. At the next family dinner, Mom introduced me differently. This is my daughter Sarah. She's a financial strategist who's been the invisible foundation of our company for 3 years. I'm incredibly proud of her intelligence, even though I was too blind to see it before. Marcus added quietly, Sarah's portfolio makes mine look like a kid's savings account. Dad, who'd been silent through all of it, finally spoke. I'm sorry I never asked what you were building. I should have. I nodded. Accepted it. Because the truth was, I didn't need their validation anymore. I'd built something real while they were dismissing me. I'd become someone powerful while they thought I was nobody. And when they finally saw it, when they finally understood, it wasn't because I'd changed. It was because they finally opened their eyes. 6 months later, I was featured in Pacific Northwest Business Journal. The Silent Investor, How Sarah Williams Built a 9-Figure Portfolio Before Age 30. Mom framed it. Put it in her office next to her Forbes feature. Progress comes in unexpected forms. Just like intelligence. Just like success. Just like respect. Sometimes the person everyone underestimates is the one holding all the cards. They just haven't shown their hand yet.